Hello, everybody, and welcome to Horror Movie Yearbook. I'm Tim.
I'm Willie.
So, real quick.
Yeah.
We won't. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, and then I decided.
You don't say. Didn't sleep good?
We're recording this on Wednesday, November. What is it? 5th, 6th?
This will be the 6th.
Yeah, it's gonna be on Friday. Do the math, folks. Figure it out. But didn't get a lot of sleep last night. But I got up and I took the day off of work, and I said, I'm gonna take the boy. I'm gonna take him to the zoo. It's gonna be me and the boy.
Nice.
We're gonna go to the zoo. We're gonna have
Nice day for it.
a beautiful day out. I'm gonna get him out. My wife's working. Like, I'm gonna give her a break
That's
from
awesome. That's
the
great.
madness that is my son.
It makes you feel good about something that you're doing, contributing. And,
Yes.
And it's good
It's
for you
fun.
to spend some time with the boy.
A lot of fun. And so I took him, and Amy's like, "Are you gonna take the stroller? You probably shouldn't take the stroller because it's just you. Do you want to take the wagon?" I'm like, "No, because this kid, he runs around like crazy, but like he's not to the point where you can go like, why stay here." Buddy, stay here. Stay next to me. What he'll do is he'll look at me and go, "No, I'm going there."
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yep.
Yeah. So,
go the opposite direction that you need to be going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Always.
so yeah, he'll do that. So I'm like, I'm not taking anything that like I have to lug around. Like, I'm just going to let him run around. It's not going to be busy. It was not busy. Oh my gosh. Let me tell you folks something. If you want to go to the zoo and you have a middle of the week day off.
Oh, it's the best.
In November and it's still decent out. Wednesday at like 10 a.m.
Amazing.
All the animals are out. There's nobody there.
Sweet spot right there, dude.
Sweet.
Yep.
I was able to see like we saw all the animals. They were all out. The rhino. I don't think I've ever seen that rhino like up close. Like it was just like it was like playing and stuff. It's like doing the horn thing.
I wasn't convinced they were real.
So, the polar bear. There's that thing you walk under, like the big tube, the big aquarium tube, and like they had set fish. So the polar bear, like you can see like its undercarriage. Like I don't know if it was balls. I don't know if that polar bear had balls, but if it had balls, I could see it because it was laying on the thing.
Nice.
And like just eating fish off top. People were looking up.
That's cool.
So
that's sweet.
But anyway,
nice day. Good day.
Yeah, no sleep, and then like about an hour, and I'm back at the end by the polar bears, and like I gotta go all the way up to the front, which is a hike, and I've got a kid right now who will let me carry him about 10 feet before he starts like thrashing like a wild man. So
that journey had to be
the way back was like I don't know, like if you ever watch like I don't know one of those like survival shows, like in the like it's just like I'm like because it also got hot, and it wasn't hot when I started, right? But like I wore a hoodie and I'm carrying this kid, and I felt like I was climbing the summit of some mountain.
Yeah,
I was just like I gotta get back. Like if I could get to the butterfly exhibit, I'm fucking good. I can get to get to the end of this.
I can see it.
I can see the end.
Oh my god!
And he was finally finally so exhausted by the end of the thing. But anyway,
he relented probably a little bit.
What's that? Yeah, he was like, okay, you can carry me now. And I'm like, I kind of want you to walk again.
Oh, now you want me to carry you?
Yeah. I would like you to walk again. But it was a fun day. But like, I'm just going to give people a heads up. This is not going to be my best episode because I'm done. Like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah. Also tired. Yeah, I didn't sleep great last night, so I get it. It is what it is. I suppose.
Yeah. Have you ever seen any animals have sex at the zoo?
At the zoo, no. I saw the tree kangaroo masturbate once. Does that count?
How did that look?
It was big. It was alarming.
One time I went to
you ever see a dog penis, like the red rocket?
Is that what a kangaroo has?
But it was like long though. It was like half the length of its body.
I have never seen a kangaroo penis.
It was like a pink tail that came out its front.
Honestly, I'm just going to Google it. I don't care anymore. I don't care what shows up on my phone.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore.
Kangaroo penis. Let's see what this thing... Oh, yeah, you're right. It like curls up.
Yeah, let me see. Flash that thing over.
So it's like a...
Yeah. It was moving on its own, too.
No.
It was doing like tentacle shit. Yeah, it was weird.
Kangaroos are kind of like assholes, too, aren't they?
Yeah, they're terrifying.
Yeah.
You ever hear what they do to dogs, bro?
No.
They drown them. No, I'm serious. So kangaroos hate dogs.
Okay.
Because a natural predator of the kangaroo is the dingo.
Okay.
And they assume all dogs are dingoes. So what kangaroo will do is it'll go out in a body of water, lake, river, something, where it can stand on the ground level, raise it with the water, and wait for the dog to come swim in and come get it. and then it grabs the dog and pulls it underwater and just holds it there until it dies.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I'm serious, dude.
Yeah,
It's
they're
real life.
not to be trifled with, these kangaroos. And it's because they're upset about their weird penises.
Yeah, it sucks. Like, what are you going to do with that thing? But the amazing thing about that is, I've always said, like, there are so many places I'd love to travel, so many places in the world I'd love to go see.
Yeah.
Both in the States and abroad, all over, whatever. But the one place one of a few places I will never go is Australia. I'm never going.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
good.
because
No, I'm good. It was bad enough when I was like, okay, they have like 9 out of the 10 most deadly snakes and like 8 out of the 10 most deadly spiders. That sucks. Okay.
Right.
But then I'm like, okay, they're surrounded by like razor sharp coral reef.
Yes.
If you can make it past that, there's sharks everywhere. There's like crocodiles and shit running around. And then even the cute stuff is scary.
Yeah, and let's face it, the Aussies seem like a fiery people as well.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, absolutely. I love it. But like the cuddly stuff is scary. The kangaroos are scary.
Yes.
They'll kick your head off, basically.
Yeah.
The birds are trying to kill you. You ever see a cassowary?
No.
Jesus, it's like a dinosaur. Koalas.
Yeah.
They have chlamydia. All of them. No, all of them do.
Koalas have chlamydia.
Every koala has chlamydia, and they will spread it to you.
Well, I mean, like...
I don't know. They'll do it. Platypus, you know what platypus got?
Do they also? What do they have?
They have
gonorrhea?
poisonous stingers.
Oh, okay. I thought it was another STD.
Right? Well, maybe. They're adorable, but then like you find out the truth, and yeah. No, Australia is a whole different beast. I have a friend who lives in Australia. It's
Well, I remember I was watching like
amazing.
Amy and I watched this thing called Race to Survive New Zealand, and we were all stoked because New Zealand's a hop, skip, and a jump away from Australia. We're like, oh man, there's going to be some crazy wildlife. And New Zealand, they don't get jack shit but sheep. Maybe that's why they're such like seem like a much calmer people, like a much more.
They're like
irreverent.
Australia if everybody was like popping edibles.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, because all they got is sheep there.
Yeah.
That's it. Sheep and like these little like fucking hedgehog thingies.
That's
Anyway,
sweet. That's cool.
one time I went to Busch Gardens.
Okay.
And I
Not
saw
Australia, but
Busch Gardens is weird because it's like a theme park mixed with a zoo, and they have a big like gorilla there, and he was knuckles deep in his own S. Like he's just and like there were kids looking at it. Joe was there with me because we both went, "Oh, those kids are getting an education today." But no, I've never seen any animals have sex at the zoo.
Sweet. I saw some squirrels have sex on my shed a few days ago. It was cool. It was nice too. It was a black squirrel and a brown squirrel.
Was it? Oh, that's nice. That's, you know, in this day and age, it's nice to have some harmony.
It is, indeed. Yeah. So we are.
Was it loving or was it like rough?
They swapped mounting, so they might have been gay squirrels too.
Oh, nice.
Maybe.
I don't know. Yeah,
I love it.
because squirrels can get wild. Like they like chase each other and they like make weird noises.
They were definitely having sex. There was clear audible sounds coming out of it.
You did not see the squirrel penis, so we don't know if it's similar.
I did not see the squirrel penis, no. But it was happening.
This is
I was out there minding my own business, and there's squirrel porn. It was crazy. Tim, what are we doing today that's not squirrel porn? We are going to be covering our top 10 horror films of the 2000s, not the aughts. Don't forget, that's a whole different thing. The 2000s. The aughts is different.
Okay, I thought that was...
The aughts is 2010 through 2019, right?
Are you sure? No, that's the tens. The aughts is the thousands.
No, the aughts is the
I'm telling you, Willie. I'm telling you. I'm not letting this one go.
No, bro, the aughts is the tens.
The aughts. The aughts is a term used to refer, and this is from Webster's, a term used to refer to the decade from 2000 to 2009.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm telling you right now.
What do they call 2010 through...
The tens.
The tens? They don't call it the tens.
They call it the tens.
No one calls it the tens.
They call it the tens. I'm telling you right now. They call it the tens.
Here.
Because, yes, the... I was gonna say
I'm fine with the... I will
roaring
concede,
tens, the terrible tens.
I will concede the aughts, okay? Because I'm wrong. And so therefore I will concede the aughts.
Yeah.
I will not call them the tens. I'll call
Fair
them
enough.
the 2010s.
Fair enough.
But yeah. Anyway, we're doing our top 10. Very passionate about this. Top 10 of the 20... Dang, I messed up. Of the aughts.
Of the aughts.
Yeah. We've
The
got
naughty
some,
oddies.
The naughty oddies. Oh, my.
They were a little bit naughty, weren't they?
Yeah.
If you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you're into a little bit of torture.
They could be. They could be. The horror genre could get a bit naughty at this point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got some lists and some picks from our
fine
friendly,
listeners?
fine
Yeah.
listeners on our Discord,
Yes.
which you can join. You can be a part of this conversation by checking out Midwest Podnet's podcast network.
Patreon.com/MidwestPodNet.
You know the whole deal.
I do. I say it all the time.
Love it.
I'm always pimping that the Patreon.
Yes.
Yeah. Is pimping still allowed? Is like you can say pimping, right?
I don't know.
I'm not editing this.
I don't think you're going to get canceled for using it. Tim.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should do it moving forward until we do some research. Yeah. So
Fair
Google.
Can you use pimping?
Yeah.
Is pimping okay to use?
Yes.
Are there still pimps in this day and age?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm not familiar.
I would hope that they've unionized at this point.
Yeah.
But hey, that could all be dismantled soon. All right, from our Discord, my brother in pro wrestling commentary, Jordan Scavone, says Freddy versus Jason. His top 10 list
It's
is
just
Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah.
And I respect that, and I don't disagree.
I was going to say, I didn't specify we were going to do top 10s, so he answered that. But then you're right. I think he just meant 1 through 10 are all Freddy versus Jason.
I like to think he meant 1 through 10.
Do you know if Jordan is an Il Nino fan?
I can find out.
Please do.
Yes, I will
Ask
find
him
out.
what his favorite song from the Freddy versus Jason soundtrack is.
I will find that out, too. Dave Steele.
He's a wrestling guy, so it's probably the Power Man 5000 song, because Power Man 5000
The bombshell
did
dropped.
the
The
Dudley song.
bombshell. Yeah, maybe. I'll have to ask him. It's a good question. Dave Steele, in no particular order, he made sure to mention this. Let the right one in. Final Destination, Signs, House of Wax, Trick or Treat.
Good, yeah.
What's that?
I'm glad House of Wax showed up.
Yeah, I'm happy it got repped. Trick or Treat, Zombieland, Death Proof.
Now this is interesting, and I'm going to ask you this before we
Yes.
get into ours. Do you count Grindhouse as one movie or two movies?
2 movies.
You do. See, in my head, I always go 1, so that's why I didn't even bother.
They are
considering.
not on my list.
Okay, mine.
Either one. But not because of that. They didn't make that cut.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't separate them in my head because
Okay.
I watch them as one.
I did too. For some reason, I still separate. I don't know.
And I'm not. I like Death Proof. I'm not crazy about Planet Terror.
I have not rewatched them since I saw them the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I've maybe seen. I liked Planet Terror better than Death Proof, but I have a feeling if I rewatch, I will probably feel the opposite.
Okay.
Kind of knowing where my tastes have shifted. I could be wrong. So, might love them both. Saw, Drag Me to Hell, and The Descent.
Yes.
Honorable mentions for Leprechaun in the Hood.
Absolutely. A Leprechaun in the Hood, always up to no good, I believe, is
That's right.
the song.
That's right. Lep in the Hood. Dawn of the Dead and Paranormal Activity 3. My favorite of that series.
I was going to say, that was the thing for a little bit, was the odd ones were the good ones, right?
For many moons, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, until... oh, man.
Maybe that still is. I just don't
Until...
remember.
Well, it's weird, because Marked Ones is the 5th movie.
Okay. Marked Ones is sweet, though.
But it's sweet as hell. But then Paranormal Activity 5 is the 6th movie, and it's not good. So it's the odd releases, not the odd numbers.
Numbered. Okay.
But I think once you get to 7, it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
They're all pretty bad at that point. I don't believe this is any particular order, but Nick, fellow Midwest podcast networker, Dog Soldiers, Signs.
I'm not surprised then.
Yeah, these first two are these are like. Actually, I'm not.
Actually, you know what? As I'm looking through this is right on. Yeah.
This whole list is like Nick.
Yeah.
It's great in like a fantastic way. 28 Days Later, Pitch Black, Frailty, Sunshine with a question mark.
I count it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Do you?
I adore Sunshine.
Uh-huh.
Despite its third act, I do throw it in the sci-fi genre.
Okay.
I did not include it in my top 10. If I decided to include it as a horror, it would have been in there.
Okay.
But it's not in there for me.
Gotcha.
Because there's so many good ones that are like straight up horror. I was like, I'm going to let Sunshine...
I did that with a couple movies where I was debating on my list. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can make a case for this. I can make too much of a case for it not being horror that I'm not going to bother with it. Yeah.
Yes. Now, I fought for these things in the past. Like Aliens, I fought for very hard to be in my top 10 of my horror for the 80s. But that movie means so much to me, and I do feel like there's... Yeah. So, for me, Sunshine did not make the cut. But for Nick, do it, man.
Yeah, it's
Love
a
that
personal
movie.
discretion. Absolutely.
The Mist, The Cell, The Ring, and The Descent.
I like the quad four.
The quad
those.
of those.
It's like the 2000s had a run of bands like that for a while.
I was just going to say, yes, exactly.
The Strokes, the Vines, the White Stripes,
Yep.
the Hives.
The Hives, all of those.
The Donnas.
Yep. Yeah, there's some good songs from that.
I like the Donnas. Anyway.
Yeah. The Cell, is that the Jennifer Lopez?
Yes.
Man, I got to
Tarsum,
rewatch
right?
that. I got to rewatch that.
Yeah, that was sweet at the time.
Nick, I
remember,
didn't know that was a favorite.
They
I'm
cut
excited.
the cow. Like, there's the part where they, like, it's vivisect. Is that the word I'm looking for?
I don't remember any of it.
Yeah. Or bisect.
I remember it being, that might be good.
Vince Vaughn, I think, was in it,
Pop
too.
and edible. And
Yeah, it's sweet. It's sweet.
Vince Vaughn and Vince D'Onofrio. The two Vinces.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jason Kimmel, these are in order. I'm going to go 10 to 1.
Sounds good.
10, Zombieland.
Mm-hmm.
9, Antichrist.
Absolutely.
My word. 8, Let the Right One In. 7, Frailty. God, I'm so happy for the Frailty love. Thank you, boys. Thank you. 6, The Descent. 5, Paranormal Activity. 4, Shaun of the Dead. 3, The Mist. 2, The Strangers. And number 1, Saw.
Strangers is a good one. I wish
Yeah, I do like The Strangers quite a bit. I've not seen it in years, so that one...
Mm-hmm.
This was a stronger list for me than I thought it was going to be, I'll be honest. Honorables, Drag Me to Hell, The Others, Exorcism of Emily Rose, Orphan, Trick or Treat, Jennifer's Body, How's the Devil, Martyrs, Cloverfield, Snyder's, Dawn of the Dead, 28 Days Later, Final Destination, Signs, but really just the birthday party tape scene and the hand grabbing the baby.
The
Culkin,
birthday party. The birthday party.
It's one of the greatest.
It's so good.
It's still
that
super
is one
effective.
of the best. Like I remember, like
I saw it in the theater.
I watched it at home, and I remember the feeling of seeing it. Like I went, ah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and when you watch it now, you're like, it's really not that big of a deal. But like back then,
that
it was
first
like,
sight of it.
Whoa, yeah. I think this is the hardest decade for me to rank. I really love tons of the movies this decade. 10 honorable mentions. LOL. Yeah, I had to rattle those off. That was fun. I felt like Excalibur at the end of an episode of Dynamite. For you wrestling fans.
This has for me too, and I think as I get into my list, like I think even you or some of my picks are gonna be like, what? But a lot of it is because around this time, because of my age, I think I would have my late teens and 20s, which is really when I'm starting to develop like personal tastes, like really,
Sure.
and like so a lot of this stuff is like stuff that really connected with me when I was like 20 years
At
old.
the time.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily know if it could today. It probably wouldn't in some cases, but like that doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do 2 here that both have the similar joke structure.
Okay.
And I think when I name these 2 people, you'll understand, and you won't be surprised that these 2 people came up with a similar joke. I'm going to talk first. I'm going to say Danny reached out with his top 10 list, which is 10 through 3, Fear.com.
Yep.
2, The Descent, and number 1, Fear.com. So,
very nice. Yes, that's a good, great list. Danny, you know, look. You did not disappoint. It was exactly what I was hoping for.
Then Gojo says, number 10, Ballistics X versus Sever.
Yes.
Number 9, À l'intérieur, which I believe is inside the French film. That's the French title for Inside the French film, which I believe... I'm just going to say I'd be surprised if Gojo has actually seen that movie. Is it like one of those new French extremity movies?
Yeah, I'm not...
This does not seem like a Gojo movie.
Gojo, I'm not necessarily...
Great Christmas watch, though, Gojo.
Oh, my. Gojo, don't listen to Tim.
Yeah,
you should watch it.
Sit down with the lady.
But don't... Be ready. Be ready.
Number 8 through 3, Ballistics X versus Sever.
Sure. Yes.
Number 2, Monster House. You know what? I don't know if he means this as a joke. Monster House is kind of fun. That's the cartoon movie.
I've never seen it. I have one memory of Monster House. I don't know. Should I share this? No.
Okay. And then number 1, Ballistic X versus Sever.
Excellent. Great choice. All right, I'm going to share it. I worked at a video store for many years. We've talked about this 1,000 times. I don't know why I was that worried about sharing it. There was this kid that used to come in a lot, and I don't know. He had a way of his social interactions were very weird, strange, right? So he was just kind of socially awkward. Nice kid, nice tough kid. But I remember one time, it was very busy in the store. I had a line, and I think I was by myself. It was like brutal. And all of a sudden I hear to my left, Monster House. I was like, what? And I kind of like turn, and he's like behind the counter.
Yeah.
And he's holding up the case to Monster House, like shaking it in my face, like, where is it? So like anytime I think of that movie, I think of Monster House. Yeah. Sweet kid, but I was like, you gotta go, buddy. You gotta get up. What are you doing? Yeah, I'll never forget that he's shaking it. Monster House. Anyway, yeah.
It's a fun movie now.
I'll check it out. Yeah. That'd be good. I'll watch it with Josie.
You know what? I think it's a fun gateway horror. It might be a little scary, but the guy who directed that went on to direct that last Ghostbuster movie.
The Frozen one?
The Frozen one, yeah.
Okay.
Which is kind of like the cartoon, but anyway. But yeah,
cool.
There are parts of it that I remember being kind of creepy. Anyway, John Street. Finally, here's my list. As with the others, there's no specific order. American Psycho. I think that this might be our first American Psycho on here. Shaun of the Dead. Bubba Hotep. Oh, I love Bubba Hotep.
That's our first Bubba, I think.
Yeah,
too.
I think so too. Yeah, 28 Days Later. That's been a common one. Dog Soldiers, also a common one.
Yep.
Final Destination, the first one. Death Proof, Cloverfield, Paranormal Activity, and Slither. So yeah, good fun list.
I love Slither.
Yep.
The 2000s are pretty good.
2000s are pretty good. Yeah.
I was actually surprised. Like, it's funny when you're in it, you don't think you have it as good as you do.
Right. So now we'll segue into our list, but yeah, to go along with what you're saying. So as you hear my list, like a lot of the big stuff, and I don't know how yours shook out, but when I think of the 2000s, especially like the mid 2000s, I think of, for lack of a better term, like torture porn movies. Okay. I'm thinking of movies like Hostel, like the Rob Zombie flicks,
the Saw series, Eli Roth stuff, beyond Hostel.
Even goofy stuff like The Ruins has elements of
that.
So like it kind of blended.
There's some body horror elements with the torture porn.
Yeah.
So my ear is like plugged for some reason. It's driving me nuts.
Oh, not good. You got to get one of those. Like what do they call it when they put it on the ear? Like there's like candle.
Neti pot? No, that's a nose thing.
That's for the nose. I don't know. There's like some candle thing you can use.
It's like driving me nuts.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Anyway,
hopefully you're good.
I'll be fine.
I'm not a doctor.
No, it's fine. It's we're good. Yeah, lots of torture porn stuff during this time.
So,
period,
but like as I look back, I don't dislike. In fact, there are some of that I really like. But as I was going through and making my favorites, none of those made my top 10. Okay. Now with the Saw movies are tough for me because we've talked about this many times. They all like lump together for me. And I don't think the first one is my favorite.
Agreed.
I like some of the sequels. Like I like the first one. So like Saw did not make my list.
I'm just gonna say right now, like when it comes to Saw, because it didn't make my list either.
Yeah.
It's on my honorable mentions. I literally just put Saw 1 through 3.
That's the thing.
Like those are the ones like that
the Saw
trio.
The Saw, that Saw series is tough for me because like I do like because of the continuity, I do kind of lump them all together, and it's tough for me to separate. Yes. But yeah, a lot of my list is like really. It's kind of like indie stuff. There's some indie stuff. There's some smaller budget stuff, and there's some fun stuff. And I think it was maybe because it was such a departure from what was dominating a lot of the mid 2000s horror for me. So anyway, I just wanted to touch on that before we get started here with our list.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything you want to say about the decade as a whole before we get started, or you ready to go?
No, I mean this was a year, a decade of discovery for me. Kind of like what you said, I was trying to form. I wasn't actively trying to, but I was forming kind of really truly forming what my tastes in film were. I was discovering new things. The internet was finally like readily accessible everywhere I went, including my home. By the time we hit 2000, and I was able to find stuff I would not have otherwise, and a couple of those are on here, and I think there's a reason. I think there's a reason why they're on my list, and I think it's because of that. Like I found them. There were people weren't talking about these movies. Like it was me, and that was exciting to me. And like they were like my movie for a little bit before they might have become.
I've got a big one. Yeah, not a big one, but I've got one early just like that.
And I cherish that because I get to. I actually I introduced a ton of people I knew to a couple of these movies, and so I felt really good about cool. I spread that kind of whatever awareness of the movie. It was exciting. It was an exciting time to be into movies, and I'm appreciative of it now more than I was at the time. I'm yawning. I'm a mess. I'm a mess, Tim. You said you were going to be a mess. I'm yawning and my ears jacked up.
I do. Yeah. I had a couple glasses of Pepsi. I normally don't. I'm not a big Pepsi or regular Coke drinker or Pepsi drinker, but so I'm a little bit wired before I came over.
Oh, nice. I have 1 can a day. That's fine.
I'm going to crash. Yeah. I'm usually a Coke Zero guy, Coke Z, but.
Nice.
No. Do you want to get us started?
Cherry Pepsi's my bag.
Cherry Pepsi?
Well, can we jump in the time machine?
Yeah.
Because I would love to do nothing more than jump in a time machine.
To the 2000s,
yeah. Yes, please. All right.
Do you have a noise for the 2000s? Yeah.
We're back.
That's some bone crunching for the torture.
Yeah. We're back.
What's your number 10?
Number 10 is Dog Soldiers. We've seen it pop up a few times here. From 2002, Neil Marshall's first kind of big... Well, it wasn't big. It was an indie movie. But his first kind of discovered foray into horror.
I would say buzzworthy.
There was a buzz. Right, exactly. And this is certainly before The Descent, but which kind of blew Neil Marshall's... I guess made him more of a presence in horror there. But this is his early stuff. So this is kind of I don't know. This is his Reservoir Dogs to The Descent's Pulp Fiction, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not a big werewolf guy. Just not. I don't know why. I've just never been big into werewolf movies. Even the biggest one, The Howling we've talked about many, for no pun intended, many moons ago.
Right.
On this show. I'm not a huge Howling guy. It's fine. I don't dislike it, but it's not my thing. Even American Werewolf, I love American Werewolf, but it's not, I've never held it in regard that a lot of people do.
Right.
It's just werewolves don't click for me. Dog Soldiers I love. Because they're just big giant monsters in cool suits, and it's army dudes fighting them. I love that. That rules. It's very simple and straightforward and violent and badass, and I like the whole thing. It's a cool movie, and a very, very well made movie and very smartly made movie for the tiny budget it had.
Yes,
that's what I appreciate about it.
Yeah,
and Kevin McKidd rules, and I'm sad that he didn't get to do a lot more. I feel like he's been in Grey's Anatomy for 1,000 years, so he's probably getting paid like crazy. Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah, but
I wish he'd done more stuff than this before that. So yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned that though, because that is something I've grown to appreciate. I think as I've gotten older, is that smaller budget, watching people do do stuff like this, kind of bigger stuff with a smaller budget.
Yeah, I this movie. They found a house in the woods and shot this movie. You know what I mean? Yes. Obviously there's more to it than that, but you can see let's keep it isolated when we write the script so that it's not
the one location. Yeah, we've got to keep it simple, but that works a lot of the time too.
I've always liked siege movies too. Those are a big kind of favorite of mine. So this is very much a siege movie. So yeah, Dog Soldiers is 10 for me. How about you, Tim?
So my list here, but not this one. I'm gonna have to mix this around now that I look at it. But anyway, my number 10 is my number 10. So I'm gonna let's kick this thing off right with my girl, The Orphan.
Nice.
I love The Orphan.
From 2009.
Yeah, this movie is incredible trash.
It's yeah,
it's
beautiful, beautiful garbage in the best way.
Yeah. And it came at the end of a decade where I was kind of getting tired of by this point, I was tired of how serious everything was. And I don't even limit that to horror movies. I limit it to a lot of what was going on in the world as well, too. And it was nice to just have something that felt like a throwback to just a trashy, I don't want to say turn your brain off, but yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily say turn your brain off because I like a lot of the stuff with Vera Farmiga, like her character, and like her not being able to connect with this kid, and like in the way that her husband is.
Yeah.
See, but the performances are all great across the board. Sarsgaard and Farmiga especially terrific, and it's just it's goofy fun, and it's not a supernatural demonic kid movie.
I like that.
I love that too. Like,
yep.
Slight spoilers for Orphan. The kid is just like a little psychopath.
Yes, yes. So it's not right. I kind of dig that because usually when you get those kid horror movies, it's like some sort of, like you said, supernatural thing. It's an alien thing, like with like a Village of the Damned, or it's a ghosty kid, or like just I like straight up just like
the thing is the kid isn't a kid.
Right. Yeah.
But that's what rocks.
Have you seen First Kill?
Yeah, you know what? I didn't dislike it.
Yeah.
But it is very cheap looking, which was a hold up for me. And I also, like, for whatever reason, and this may have just been either my internet was shit or the stream, but it looked like dog shit when I was watching it. Like, it looked awful, and it distracted me a lot of the time. So that could have been a streaming issue on my end. I didn't really look too much into it. It's fun, but Orphan is the superior.
Yeah.
They're making a third one. So
it's so crazy that a sequel got made to this movie that long
down
afterwards.
the road. Yeah, it does feel like some of those. Because I think it was a Paramount Plus thing too. It feels similar to that Pet Sematary one that came out.
Yeah,
and then that the Rosemary's Baby one that came out a month ago. Like similar in that it feels like direct video stuff.
It was it would be direct to video if that still existed. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And also, I think this is a Dark Castle movie. I think Orphan is a Dark Castle movie.
Oh my!
I've got a soft spot for Dark Castle.
Yes, you do.
And I think this might be my favorite of the Dark Castle flicks. Yeah. So
there's
anyway.
some good ones.
Yeah. So that's Orphan.
All right, number 9 for me from 2004. I have Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
Ah, okay.
This is a movie that has a very special place in my heart. It came out at the perfect time. By this point, I'd been a fan of Romero's films for years, for over a decade, because I watched them way younger than I should have. And there was a zombie drought in film. Zombies hadn't been up until 2002, when Resident Evil came out and 28 Days Later came out. And remember, 28 Days Later came out in 2002 in the UK first.
Right.
Did not hit the States until afterwards. It was not weird, but nowadays it would be a global release, right? But like back then, there was still like, we're releasing in the home country, like in the UK, and then we'll see how it does and kind of like branch out into like other markets. There was a zombie drought. Like, so if you were going to watch a zombie movie, it was either going to be one of the classics, or it was going to be some sort of like direct to video kind of like schlock that was like kind of worthless. And so when the zombie craze started up again, this was one of the first big zombie movies to come out. Like, this was a big deal. And I remember being totally against this thing. I was curious.
Yeah, I think you said it before. I was curious what your thoughts were on it before watching it.
Don't remake this. Like, how could you do this? Blah, 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 blah. And Zack Snyder was an unknown. James Gunn, for me, at the time, was an unknown. He'd done stuff, obviously, but he was not James Gunn at this point, as we know him now.
I think he had written like the Scooby-Doo movie.
But no.
Oh, and then Romeo and Juliet as well. He directed.
But I didn't.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, he wasn't a name yet.
Right.
And I remember kind of like going. I think I had a couple buddies that wanted to go see it, and I went, okay, fine. I knew at this point that it was going to be different because I had seen the trailer, and I knew we weren't remaking it beat for beat. Right? It was zombies in a mall. That was basically the only similarity. And I remember going in and watching it and going, holy shit, this movie kind of rules. Like, it's a ton of fun. It's crazy. It's totally different from the original in the best way. Like, it's a very different movie. But this movie is some of the best, like, zombie action scenes in period ever. Like, it's fast-paced. It's a brisk movie. The characters are all fun, even like the weird like one-off supporting characters. The soundtrack is great. It's Zack Snyder's best movie.
Yeah, I would agree.
It is.
Yeah.
Because he has an editor, or he has a writer behind him.
I like 300 quite a bit.
300 is probably his best made movie.
But I would agree with you.
This
I
is
think
my
they're
favorite Zack Snyder movie.
I think Gunn and Snyder are a good match.
Very good.
Especially when they're doing a horror movie like this.
I kind of wish somehow they would do something again.
Me too, yeah.
Don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think so either. And I don't think I would want it to happen at this point with where they are in their careers.
They're different.
Yes.
Yeah. But I will say I do think Dawn of the Dead 04 is like, I don't know, it's a really well-directed and well-written movie, and it's a lot of fun. And I haven't watched it in a while. I'll have to go back and watch it again. It's been a minute. But yeah, always been a fan, for sure.
All
Tim,
right.
number 9.
This is a movie that I think you've told me that my number 9 is one you don't like. And I get that. Because it is an acquired taste, and this filmmaker is an acquired taste. My number 9 is Lucky McKee's May.
Oh.
That was the look I was like. That was the noise I was looking for. He's an acquired taste. This movie is an acquired taste. I think this is also... this is before... We get a lot of this type of movie today, which is kind of like this is like proto. Remember when they called them mumble gore? Those?
Yeah.
This is kind of like proto mumble gore.
It is.
Yeah, it's a very small character base, like realistic horror movie.
Yeah.
And it's got this indie rock soundtrack to it. That was, you can tell, a lot of it was made by local bands. But you mentioned at the top, this is one of those movies I discovered on my own.
Right.
Like, I rented it based solely on, like, the cover and the description. And I went home and watched it, and it really connected with me.
That's cool. Yeah.
And I think it's... May is an outcast.
I don't hate May, by the way.
Oh, do you? Okay.
No, I'm not a...
Gotcha. Yeah. This actually is not my favorite Lucky McKee movie. I love The Woman. Like, I...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, The Woman is crazy, though.
That movie.
So, but I'm a fan of it. I wish he was a little bit more prolific. I haven't watched some of his recent stuff. Yeah. Anyway, but it came out at a time when I was kind of feeling similar things to the main character. Obviously, we could take the different paths, but I was feeling kind of like lonely and kind of an outcast. Yep. And Angela Bettis is really good in that role. I think I had kind of a crush on her too at the time.
Sure.
But I think this is a movie too, like you had mentioned, it's a movie I discovered at a very certain point, and it was a movie that felt like it was made for me at the time. And there were a couple movies on this list that feel like that. And I watched it a little bit, and it still worked for me, but not on the same level. And I mentioned this when I was talking a little bit about Cemetery Man, Del Morte Del Amor. Like, that's okay. Like, it doesn't have to work on that same level as when you first watched it.
Yep.
It's okay to like a movie a little more when you were younger, but I wanted to shout this out because it is a movie I really connected with in when I watched it at that age, and I think it carried through, and it's a special movie for me in that way.
That's cool.
So.
That's cool. Yeah, I love that stuff. Like, I love.
And I do think the fact that it's maybe not the most well liked, like it is kind of an acquired taste. I think that contributes to how much I like it too. If that makes sense. Yeah.
No, I totally get it. Number 8 for me is The Mist from 2007.
Okay.
The Mist rules. It's it's one of those movies, and God, you see it so often now, like in like kind of slapdash internet articles on websites and stuff, where it's like the craziest twists of all, in all cinema history. And like, I don't know, man.
It's like a What Mojo video.
Yeah.
YouTube, yeah.
The Mist ruined me. Like, I was like, I'd heard going into it, like, be prepared. I didn't see it in theaters or anything. I don't think anybody did. I
don't think so either.
I had been told, I was not spoiled, but I had been told, like, be prepared. This one's dark. I remember I'm watching it, and I'm like, man, this movie is pretty sweet. Like, I love the concept. I love the performances are great, blah, blah, blah. But I'm sitting there the whole time going, like, man, like, this is kind of, like, it's kind of goofy and crazy. And then, like, it gets darker, and I was like, okay, yeah, all right, okay. And then it gets darker, and I'm like, damn, okay. And then it gets, it's a gnarly movie.
This was on. I watched this a couple weeks ago. It was on like Fear Fest or whatever. And I threw it on in the background.
It's on TV a lot.
Yeah, chasing Wyatt around, and he was really into it too. But no, I had it on the TV, and I was like, I kept one eye. I'm like, I'm into this. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
The black and white version is the
Glad you mentioned that.
best way to watch
I might
it.
mention that too. It is.
If you
Because some of those effects are a little bit dodgy.
They are.
But not in the black and white version. It
They
actually
are
works
not.
really well in the black
It
and white
is great.
version. Yeah.
So yeah, black and white if you can. It is King does not always work well when translating to screen.
Yeah.
I would actually go as far as to say some of his stuff is not filmable.
Right.
But every once in a while, there is a filmmaker who can take King's work and somehow, because his work is so universally malleable and interesting, they can take his work and make it better than the original. The Mist is an example of that. Like, the film version is superior to the story. Doctor Sleep's another one that would.
Yes.
So yeah, The Mist for me is the number 8.
So my number 8 is another movie that I guess it's similar to May in that it is one that like I kind of hold dear because it is one that feels like, I don't want to say it's made for me, but it's one that it was a discovery on my own. But my number 8, and actually, weirdly enough, Pontypool didn't make my list.
Pontypool's sweet.
But I was tossing up between putting that one and this one. My number 8 is Splinter.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so Splinter...
I don't know how that's not on my list, but it's not.
But Splinter is this movie that kind of does get forgotten from this decade because it was not a wide release. And I think part of the fondness I have for it is like I watched this aired on Halloween night on HDNet. It was the world premiere, and it was like you can watch it in theaters or you can watch it at home. It was the first time I remember you like being able to watch something like that. And I'm sure it was like a limited release, but where I lived, we did not get movies like Splinter, like limited release movies. So I was like, sick. I'm going to watch this like Halloween night. This is going to be so cool. And they played it like back to back to back, like all night. And I watched it, and like it's the kind of movie that I end up loving, which is, you mentioned before, kind of like a single setting, like a 90-minute movie that's quick, that's in and out, that's not dumb. Like, it's not dumb, but you, like...
The characters are well written.
The characters are well written. They're well defined. They're well acted. Shea Wiggum's in this.
Shea Wiggum.
But it doesn't over-explain things. It drops you in and it says, like, this is the monster. This is how it operates. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not going to give you the entire backstory of it.
I don't want it. Yeah.
I don't want it. It's cool to figure this out, and it's cool to pencil that in as I go.
Yep.
But it is kind of that small, off-the-beaten path horror movie, but it's also accessible. It's not weird enough that I don't like, this is a movie that I would recommend to anybody, really, like, that's a horror fan. Like, I'd be like,
sure.
You know what, if you want something that is a little bit, like I said, smaller, like lesser known, check this one out. It's a fun monster movie, and it doesn't insult you. Like, it takes itself seriously. Like, it takes the monster seriously as well.
Yeah. It's really effective. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not. That's about all I have to say.
It's
for
great.
Splinter, but yeah,
it's great. I'm glad you put it on there. That's awesome. My number 7 is Shaun of the Dead.
Okay.
Another one. So Shaun came out the same year as Dawn, which the remake, which is so weird
looking back at it. Yeah.
And another one where I was like, oh man, they're gonna do like a parody, like a zombie parody. Like, oh man, I don't know. Like, we're just getting the zombie genre back, and we're already going to start making fun of it. This sucks. Like, I was like immediately kind of rejecting it. I didn't know Spaced. I didn't know the work of Edgar Wright or Simon Pegg or Nick Frost. Like, that was not on my radar. And so I was kind of like hesitant. And then I kept hearing like early reviews, like, it's great. It's like a love letter, blah, blah. I'm like, damn, okay. And then I went and saw it, and I was like blown away by it because it's so funny. And it's such a vision. Like, it is a love letter to a genre that deserved that appreciation. That, like, between this and Dawn, I think there's a lot of, in different ways, there's a lot of like reverence for the whole genre, the subgenre, I guess. Mm-hmm. And
that's a good word for it. Yeah.
Yeah. The writing is just like it's so fast and frenetic and smart. It's Edgar Wright, right? So like now we can say Edgar Wright, and people kind of know. At the time, it wasn't that was not the case, at least for most people. Like, you couldn't say, "Oh, it's an Edgar Wright movie." Like, that was not a thing you could mention and have people immediately go, like, "Okay, I understand what that's going to be." Like, what that kind of filmmaking style is. And this was his first real like foray into showing people what he could do. And it's what I did not expect from it was how much I was going to care about the characters. The fact that it was still going to be scary at times, despite being essentially a comedy. The fact that it was going to have such an immense amount of heart to it. You know, when you hear like a spoof of the zombie genre, you're like, at the time, remember, we're coming out of Scary Movie.
Yes.
And things, Shriek, If You Know What I Did Last Friday Saturday the 14th. Or
Thank you for remembering that one, yeah.
Yeah, whatever it's called. I kind of remembered it.
We're getting into like the later Scary Movie sequels around this time,
it's
too.
Bad.
Right? Yeah.
It's the dregs. And so when you hear zombie parody, I go, ew, that's not good. Especially when we've already had zombie comedies that were successful. Mm-hmm. Return of the Living Dead being a good example of that. So it blew me away in all the best ways. I was so pleasantly surprised, and it still remains to me like I don't know if it's Edgar Wright's best. I'd have to go back and really think about that. It's my favorite of his movies. There's no question.
Yeah,
and it's because I do love the zombie genre so much. I don't think it's ever going to change. But I think World's End is very underrated.
I need to go back and watch that one.
Yeah.
I've got a real soft spot for Hot Fuzz, but Sean is
special.
Yeah.
So
that
was
was
number 7.
My
My
7.
goodness, we're rolling.
I'm gonna flip this one. This is one I was gonna, as I was thinking about it, flip. I'm gonna swap some, but Ginger Snaps. My number 7 is Ginger Snaps.
Yeah.
I love werewolves. I'm a big werewolf fan.
You are a werewolf guy.
Yeah, I'm a werewolf guy. I also like Canada. I like Canada. This is good,
especially lately.
This is but this is good old Canucks. It's not Canucks exploitation. This is good old Canuck horror movie, Canadian horror. This and Jennifer's Body, I think, are the two movies that I think of when I think of like female adolescent movies from this decade.
Yeah.
You don't get a ton of that in horror.
No.
Carrie, I think, is one.
That's an early example. The Exorcist a little bit, but that's more at like young.
The Craft, maybe I think you could make an argument for.
Yeah.
But
there's not a ton of it though.
Jennifer's Body, Ginger Snaps, and Carrie to me are like about females becoming like women.
Hard Candy's another one that's kind of.
That's in its own way. Yeah. But Ginger Snaps is a movie that I like to watch movies and horror movies as well to like learn about people and their experiences that aren't me.
Sure.
Like I don't know what it's like to be an adolescent woman.
Yeah.
Young woman.
Yeah.
But like Ginger Snaps, which I believe was written by a woman, helps. It helps me.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah. It helps me learn. I know enough about me. I need to know less, actually. I would very much like to know less about me. And the werewolf subgenre is typically like a male-dominated subgenre. So it was really neat it was really neat at the time to see something kind of different and twisted. I also like the two lead performances. This was kind of the movie that put Catherine Isabelle on the map a little bit in the horror circles, and she would go on.
She became kind of a scream queen for a little bit.
Yeah. She would go on to. She was just in something recently too that I quite liked her in. But
Emily
anyway,
Perkins is the other actress, right? She was in the original It as well.
Oh yeah,
She played Bev, young Bev, in the original It miniseries with Tim Curry. So she was kind of, in a way, I guess, kind of a scream queen too.
Yeah, Emily Perkins. Yep. So I was gonna look up Catherine Isabelle because I just saw her in something.
This is a very good example, though, of.
She was in. Oh, sorry.
No. In the same way, like we talked about the Lost Boys on the show. In the same way, it kind of contemporizes. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it is now. It's for these purposes.
Vampires for its decade. before that it was released. This one does the same for werewolves.
Right.
But it's cool because it does it from a female perspective, which I like.
Right.
Yeah.
She was just in the movie we talked about actually last Christmas. It's a Wonderful Knife. You remember that one?
Yes.
With Justin Long.
Yes,
she was in that as well. So yeah, and it's another in those. It's kind of what as you can tell, I've kind of gravitated towards so far on my list. It's one of those kind of low budget, like kind of smaller character based horror movies that I started to really like. And the 2000s was before, like, because we got a ton of those in the 10s, where we get a lot of movies like this. It feels like in the 10s, but in the 2000s, the bigger budget stuff was so different than Ginger Snaps.
Yeah,
like it was so much different.
Yeah.
And once again, I did not dislike that stuff, but as I was sitting and watching and discovering stuff on my own, a movie like Ginger Snaps is one I gravitated more towards. So, yep.
All right, my number 6 is Freddy vs. Jason.
You got Freddy vs. Jason out here. Awesome.
From 2003. Look, I can't. So it is. There are definitely better movies in my honorable mentions than Freddy vs. Jason. Let me name a few. Audition is a better movie than Freddy vs. Jason. Blade 2 is a better movie than Freddy vs. Jason. Wreck is a better movie than Freddy vs. Jason, as is Drag Me to Hell. So I just named off some of my honorable mentions there. Those are all better films. However, Freddy vs. Jason is it's too special to me, man. I can't I don't want to talk too much about it because we've talked about how much we love the Friday the 13th franchise and the Nightmare franchise to a lesser extent, I would say, for both of us. But it's everything I ever could have hoped for. It's it's like the horror titans, the horror superheroes finally coming together and in one movie, and it was just so exciting and so cool. And it had like a new metal soundtrack, which I was into at the time. It is the perfect collision of everything that could possibly work at the time of its release. And so, while I recognize that is not probably on most people's top 10 list from the 2000s, or that it is even deserves to be, for me, it will never not be, because it's that perfect storm.
This was such. I went opening night, and it was such a fun opening night experience for me.
Unbelievable,
because it was the promotion for this was so doofy and fun.
They did.
They did the Michael Buffer
weigh-in.
boxing weigh-in.
Oh,
yeah,
God,
I remember they did
so
a camp screening. Did a screening of it. People got to stay at a summer camp, and that was on the DVD. That was silly and fun. The whole promotion of it was a ton of fun. I'm with you. I like Freddy vs. Jason a lot.
It's a fun movie.
It delivered what I wanted it to at the time, especially that third act. The third act really brings it.
Yeah, that brings the heat.
Yep.
And as more of a Jason guy, the first two acts do okay too. If you're a Freddy guy, I can see where you'd be like, but yeah. Love that movie. Tim, number 6.
Battle Royale.
Yes.
This was one of those legendary word of mouth movies. Yeah. Before I watched this thing, I'd heard about it for years. I don't even remember when I first watched it, but I do remember what I watched it on. It was a shitty laptop. You remember DivX?
Yes, DivX. Yes.
DivX. Yeah. So I watched it on it was in a shitty apartment, but I watched it on that. And it was
the best way to experience the first time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And because I believe it came in a part with part 2 as well.
Because you're I'm watching something dangerous right now.
That's the thing. So it was one of those things that I'd heard about, and it lived up to the hype for me too, which is a tough thing to do, especially when you hear about something for years and years. And
do you remember the whole thing was it was banned in the U.S., which was not really true.
Right.
Just no distributors were going to pick it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was school kids killing each other.
Yes.
The characters are so cool. This is the type of movie where the violence is edgy, but it has to be, and it has to be shocking. It's also a movie that kind of it rewards some of the violence, but that's the point. That's the problem. It's telling you these laws don't make better people. It
sensationalizes the violence, but that's kind of the point.
Yeah,
it's because it's a game show, right? It's kind of
yes,
yeah.
I don't have a ton to say about this right now. What I will say is, though, you and I recorded a episode of Multimedia that I think I put up on our YouTube page as well.
Yes.
On Horror Movie Yearbook. If you follow us on YouTube, go back through the videos. I really liked what we did.
Yes, I did too.
Because we read the book.
Yes.
And I still have the book.
The book's different.
Book is different. It was a little tougher for me to follow, if I recall correctly, because sometimes when you have a lot of characters like that, it is for me. But
and Japanese names, like for us,
yes.
they're not names where like it's not like,
common.
hey, we're following Steve now.
Yeah,
you know what? Like it's just not the same. Yeah, yeah.
But I remember, like I said, watching it where I wasn't just kind of like falling in love with it. It was just how like how cool and like how dangerous it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, Battle Royale is not my number 6.
Nice. Number 5 for me is Frailty. Look, Frailty rules. It's scary as shit. It's one of the it's probably the scariest movie on my list because it feels like it could happen. It feels like something that I could see popping up on the news. You know, like,
right. Was this Paxton directing?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Bill Paxton is my favorite actor of all time. So that's not a secret. I love Paxton. I think he crushes it in any role he was ever given. And this is his directorial debut is this movie. And he stars in it as well. And he's great in both roles. McConaughey, I love McConaughey. I love McConaughey. In general, he's very good in this movie.
When he is good, he is good.
When he really, really cares about what he's doing, like when he's not just being McConaughey,
or when he's like vibing for with a part, like when it's
he's really good in this movie. Powers Booth, amazing in this movie. Like everybody talked about him. Like the whole thing is just it's so well acted, and well shot, and well scored, and well constructed. It's just it's a masterclass of filmmaking from essentially a first-time filmmaker in a lot of ways, right? I mean, certainly Paxton had been a veteran of the set at this point, but I think it's a great movie, and I don't think enough people have seen Frailty.
Yeah,
like it's really damn good. There's a sequence where there's a beam of light from the sun that's cutting through the clouds. And it is shining down on a shed or a broken down barn or something in a field. This movie's very country.
Yeah.
And I remember we watched this movie in Colorado. Nikki had never seen it, and we had access to the DVD collection at that point. And I went, we're watching Frailty. So we watched Frailty. And there's this sequence where they see this beam of light shining down. The next day, my brother, me, and my dad, and Nikki were all driving into town for something. And I swear to you, we're driving through the mountains in Colorado, and there's a single beam of light cutting through the clouds to like some abandoned shack. And Nikki goes, if you guys kill me right now, I'm gonna be really upset. Like, because it was so creepy and like eerie and like reminiscent of exactly what we watched the previous night.
Yeah,
I'll never forget that memory. It was so poetic. I think we all stared at her creepily too, just to like mess with her. Yeah, but Frailty rules. It's awesome. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. I don't even know where you can find it at this point, but like. Watch it.
Frailty,
this feels like one that's going to be forgotten, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, we need to keep the Frailty level alive. That's part of the reason I put like Splinter out here in May too, is like these are movies that I feel like are going to be, as we get further and further away from these decades, like this stuff might just drop off by the wayside, and especially as you're right, some of it gets harder and harder to find. But
the streaming services decided to just not carry this stuff.
Yes,
then, yeah.
But no, I'm glad there's been so much Frailty love. It's on my honorable mentions. Part of it is because it's been so long since I've sat down and watched it.
There's a couple of those for me too.
But you're right. It's an excellent movie, and I'm glad it's getting some love on this.
Agreed.
This episode.
All right, number 5.
My number 5 is 28 Days Later.
Ah, yes.
This is my favorite Danny Boyle movie. I think visceral is like the right term for this movie. I can feel this movie like when I think about it, when I watch it. Like I feel everything. This feels like a bridge from Romero to some of the more modern stuff that you have talked about, and even into like The Walking Dead as well.
Sure.
It's weird that it was in production when the 9/11 attacks occur
Insane.
because it feels like something that came directly
Like a
out of
response
that.
to it.
The rage virus is something. So it's not really. It
They're
depends
not
on
zombies
They're not zombies
in the traditional sense.
yes,
right.
and that's kind of what I mean from a bridge from. It seems like it kind of leads into like Snyder's Dawn,
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways. But it's the rage virus is like one of those things. It's so simple, and it could come across as kind of goofy and silly, but it doesn't. I think it's so effective in its simplicity because and it is a hopeful movie. It's a movie about going back to being, and as corny as it is, going back to being compassionate, going back to feeling that love is greater than hate and rage and all those things. And I like that movie. I like the movie for that, and it puts you through the ringer before it gets to that. But I like the movie for those reasons. So, the 28 Days Later is my number 5.
Nice. Number 4, Trick or Treat. Look,
Awesome.
Trick or Treat. It's a stone cold classic. It's amazing to me what this little movie that was released, dumped to video basically, like what it became and what it created. And I'm like super happy we never got a sequel.
There's been talk of it. I'm with you.
I don't want it.
I don't want it either at this point.
Leave it alone. I don't want it. This thing naturally became a true classic in the genre.
Yep.
That does not happen very often.
Nope.
Without being tampered and like kind of messed with.
It's become a Halloween staple too.
It is.
Like AMC
Sam
plays this all the time.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it should. Trick or Treat rules. It's one of the greatest horror anthologies of all time. Michael Dougherty rules. Sam rules. I don't know what I can say. Like, Trick or Treat is a the quintessential Halloween movie in many ways, and the fact that it came in 2008 is insane to me. Like, that's a long time ago now, which is crazy, but like it still feels so fresh to me. Like, it's yesterday. Yeah, Trick or Treat rules. I love it.
All right,
Tip number 4.
Number 4. Boy. You already talked about this
The boy
movie.
wasn't. No.
Oh, the boy. Oh, please, Brahms. We haven't got to the 10s yet. Was it 10s or 20? Now that I think about it. That was 10s.
10.
Sorry, that's right. You're not saying the 10s.
I think, right?
Yeah, number 4. Boy, this movie. Been thinking about it a lot the last 24 hours.
Oh, boy.
The Mist. Boy, do I not want to talk about the ending of this movie right now. Because, man, am I feeling it. Here's the thing with the ending, and I guess I'm not going to spoil it, but what I want to say is you touched on it a little bit earlier. The ending hit me because I didn't know what exactly happens at the end of The Mist. I knew Frank Darabont directed it. And when I thought of Frank Darabont, of course I thought of Shawshank at that time. And the ending of Shawshank is
Green Mile.
Green Mile. And then remember that, what was the, of course he did he wrote the Blob as well, right? But
yeah,
I wasn't thinking of that in Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
But he's not a compromising guy, right? So he's not afraid to go.
But a lot of his stuff, like he had just got done with that Jim Carrey movie, The Majestic, which was really schmaltzy.
Uh-huh.
So when I'm thinking in my head, what I was thinking of was that Darabont. That was not what I got with that ending. Now you can make the argument that it is a movie. I don't even think you can make the argument. It's a movie. The ending is about not losing hope. I don't think it's a happy ending.
God, it goes. Are you saying that it's? Oh man, are you saying the ending is about the dangers of losing hope?
Yeah.
Okay, so like the Thomas Jane character losing hope, like if you give up too soon, this is the kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay,
it's about pushing through that. It's almost like the ending of Shawshank if the guy just said, "Fuck it, I'm not going any further." Like I'm not getting to the other side. Right. So that's what I meant by that. Yeah. So anyway, that's all I'll say about the ending right now because, man, that ending has hit me recently. But this is also not a flawless movie by any means. The beginning and getting everybody in the same spot is a bit contrived with how it gets there. The special effects you mentioned are bad at times. But where this thrives, and I want to point it out again because this is another thing that I think is being lost to streaming because it was a DVD release of it. Yeah. I don't know if you can find it anywhere. I guess I haven't checked, so maybe you can't, but I would be surprised. But that black and white version is the version of this movie for me. I would say maybe watch it in color first if you.
No, don't. No, I'm going to go ahead and say
watch the black and white version, right?
yes,
because
right out of the gate.
That's when it hits. This movie is basically like a Twilight Zone episode. Specifically, the monsters are due on Maple Street.
Yeah.
And when it's in that black and white version, it actually it cleans up the effects, which I was talking about. But it feels like one of those Twilight Zone episodes, those 1950s horror movie that is about like this microcosm of America that's stuck in the same place with each other.
Yeah.
And it also captures the 2000s really, really well. And a lot of it could be applied today, but I think it's a very much of because it is a lot of it is of a more religious bent, and I think that was a thing that had taken hold around that time too, and I think it's taken more of a hold then than it has today with some of the stuff we're going through. So I think The Mist does that, and it is not subtle with how it does it, but you know what? Like I said, I forgive it because it's so angry.
It's an angry movie.
That's always been the thing with me is like, if you're not going to be subtle, you need to be angry. Like, that's always why I've always gravitated and enjoyed Oliver Stone movies, is because like, I mean,
agree.
that prime Oliver Stone stuff, because like, yeah, you know what? Be pissed off because it is fucked up. Like, yeah.
I like Oliver Stone's early stuff.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
He's become what he's become.
Become what he hated, I think.
Yeah,
in all the ways.
but anyway, The Mist is terrific, and yes, seek out the black and white version.
It is not available to stream anywhere.
There you go.
So somebody said just watch it on streaming and turn your TV to black and white.
There you go. That's another good idea. Yeah,
Might help. Not the same, but might help.
What's your number three
for me is The Descent from 2006. The Descent is a perfect film. There's nothing wrong with it. Watch the original ending. I cannot tell you because it's so convoluted which version has the original ending. There was a U.S. version. I think that was the changed ending. And then I think the re-release had the watch the better ending, please. The movie remains largely the same regardless. This movie is, man, it's scary as shit. Still, like, this is still an effective movie to me. I don't like. I wouldn't say I'm claustrophobic. No, I think I might be claustrophobic. I don't like tight spaces. I don't like dark. That like the idea of spelunking is insane to me. You must be out of your damn mind. And I've always been freaked out by the idea that there are like things that are on our planet that we have not found yet.
Yeah, like some of those deep ocean
that scares
creatures.
The hell out of me. We're still finding stuff. It's nuts. And so that freaks me out. This is like all like like a multitude of fears that I actually have like poured into one. It's a wonderful. This is a wonderful pairing with The Thing for me. With Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah.
There's like a perfect parallel between them. We've got an all-male cast and an all-female cast. They're both stories of like people trying to survive horrendous conditions beyond their control while trying to trust each other despite levels of mistrust and deceit going on. The color palettes are weirdly complementary.
Yeah.
It's such a good movie. I remember like thinking like this is the closest I've felt since like The Thing to this feeling I felt. And it just stands as one of those like absolute, for me, like classics in the genre. I don't know, what do you say about The Descent? It's like, if you haven't seen it, you have to watch it. It's brilliant. It's scary.
It's my favorite Neil Marshall movie. Yeah.
Easy. Yeah, I like Neil Marshall stuff in general, but yeah, it's easily his best. And I love the female perspective in it. Like it's just so man. I love this movie. It's another one I want to rewatch it soon because it's been a while. So yeah, love The Descent. Number 3 for you, Tim.
My number 3 is Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for an EC Comics style story, which this is. This also holds a special. So
you like Sam Raimi, right?
Sam Raimi is probably, I wouldn't say he's the director that like has directed so like maybe consistently my favorite stuff. Like it's probably Carpenter. But he's the director who he's a director who I connect with. He's a director who I love, and he's directed stuff that like I hold dear to my heart.
Yeah.
And he was coming off.
He's kind of your director. Like
yes. He's like a guy. Yeah. Yes. And he was coming off those first 2 Spider-Man movies. I adore. Like I love them. And he was a guy that he's also a guy I had a connection with because he's a guy who I kind of followed his career like from when I was younger because I loved the Evil Dead movies, and I saw him get those Spider-Man movies, and like he blew up.
It was like rah, good for you.
Yes,
like,
and he made like a couple of the biggest movies of all time. Yeah. And Spider-Man 2 and Evil Dead 2 are 2 of my favorite movies of all time. So then Spider-Man 3 comes, and I didn't dislike Spider-Man 3 at the time, but as I read more about it, and like I could tell that was not his movie in a lot of ways. Yeah. Like he had kind of lost control of it. I mean, it's his movie, but like it had been, his heart wasn't in it in some ways. I think.
So you're saying the original True Believers, he wound up kind of.
I think the Venom stuff does not mesh well. Like Raimi was on record saying Venom is not his cup of tea. He liked the original classic stuff. So I remember like and I think what it was too was the reaction of it, because he became like weirdly like all of a sudden this nerd icon of this became like public enemy number 1 amongst like online for making like and now you can't go to a super movie without dancing or singing in it. But like I remember that dance scene in Spider-Man 3. So what I loved about Drag Me to Hell at the time was he went, all right, I am going to take everything I learned on those Spider-Man movies and just go back and make a back-to-basics horror movie.
Yeah.
Now, there are certain things that carried over from those Spider-Man movies. This is another one where I don't think the effects are great at times. I think they're a little bit iffy. I think there's a scene with a cat that looks a little wonky. And
man.
Yes. There's another thing, too, with some blood that is just a little bit iffy.
The goat head is sweet, though.
The goat is incredible. It's one of my favorite things. But it is this marriage, and he's doing it, and I kind of love that it's PG-13 too, because he's doing it. He's saying like, I can still make this type of horror movie that I'm great at, and I can do it like
within studio constraints.
Constraints.
Yeah.
But it's another movie of his where it beats up the lead character so much. Justin Long is a guy that I have grown to love. He's like a Scream King to me.
I like, yeah, right.
He's and I love him in this movie. Justin Long is my favorite performance in this movie.
His reaction in the closing moments of the film.
That fucking ending
is so sweet.
It's one of my favorite cuts to the title of all time, like cut to credits of all time.
It's great.
So it's a personal thing with me too, where he came back. It's my second. I always say this. It's my second favorite Evil Dead movie behind Evil Dead 2.
Right?
Yeah. Because it's very similar in a lot of ways, and it is a morality tale. And it's very Old Testament in its morality, but you know what? That's what a lot of horror is. So.
It's a scary testament.
The Old Testament is fucking crazy.
I think, yeah. Moving on. Number 2 for me is 28 Days Later.
Yep.
You've talked about this, but this was a I discovered this on the internet. I had a friend in 2002 or 2001 maybe even, who was savvy enough to know how to find files that he could burn to DVDs.
Oh, sick.
Or they were like data discs. They weren't DVDs. Okay. They were like data. And I had a portable DVD player. And I heard about this movie and I went, I have to see this. Because this is like the zombie drought for years. And I was like, oh my God, there's a new zombie film coming out. Like this, I have to see this thing. And I heard good stuff about it on the internet, and so I had a friend who found a copy of this, some sort of cam rip that was put onto some sort of
That is a 2000s term that
a cam rip.
The kids these days, the Gen Z might not.
They don't understand the cam rips. Yeah, and he put it on a data disc for me, and I had a portable DVD player that could play data.
Yeah.
Because not all DVD players will play data
yeah.
discs. And and I put it in. It was on 2 discs. He had to put it on 2 separate discs, half one and half two, because it was like you couldn't fit. And I watched the entire first half of this movie in probably the shittiest quality, but also kind of worked.
Yeah.
I was in class, like in my seminar class.
Yeah.
And I had it headphones in, zoning all the actual kids studying for shit out. I was studying for the truth, all right? And I was like, my brain exploded. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, this can't be as good as it looks.
I'm glad you brought this up because it will lead me on a mini rant here. So don't listen to all these people that tell you, like, I love going to theaters. I love going to movies. It's not the only way to watch a movie. Sometimes the best experiences are in seminar.
Are the dirty, nasty.
Yes.
It's on your portable DVD player with your shitty headphones in.
Yeah.
In seminar class with background noise as you're like focusing like this. Oh my God, what am I seeing?
You will remember those forever. Yeah.
And because of the nature of 28 Days Later as an experiment, essentially, like filmmaking experiment, it made it scarier because it felt I was like, I'm watching a fucking documentary. Like this is real. Like I'm watching shit I'm not supposed to see. And
I remember going to the Central Michigan Library, speaking of DivX, because they had better internet, and I would just watch shit in the library, like shit that I should not have been watching. It like mixed company, people walking by, getting like studying.
Nowadays, you can't get away with that, but like back then, yeah.
Oh, I wasn't watching like hardcore pornography.
No.
I don't think.
Maybe, yeah.
No, you can get big trouble for that.
You would big trouble. Not
anyway, sorry.
Don't do it.
I was watching softcore pornography.
Yes, right. That's better, but still, we should shy away.
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking like back in this time period, it was like, what weird snuff, like jihadi video did you watch? Dude, that was a thing back then.
Mm-hmm.
Kids were weird about that. Like, hey, I found this video. Anyway, so I'm watching this, and I get so disc 1 ended with Brendan Gleeson's character getting the drop in his eye and starting to turn into an infected rage, whatever. And that was, oh my God, like I was into it. So like eject, okay, the eject button existed still. So we had seminar every other day. So I knew I wouldn't have a chance to finish this until seminar 2 days from now. I was ready.
Yeah.
So bring the portable DVD player back, put the disc in, play. The second disc didn't work.
Oh, no.
I had to wait to finish 28 Days Later for it to come out in theaters in the States. But those months in between, I was like, what happens in this movie? It was brutal. And I was so thrilled when I finally got to see the finale. Like, yeah. So...
That's a hilarious story.
Right?
That's a wonderful story.
God damn it. Anyway, that friend screwed me over. He gave me a half a movie. So that's my number 2. Tim, what do you got?
My number 2 is Slither.
Yes.
This and my number 1 are very similar. This was my introduction to... This was like my introduction to James Gunn because that Dawn remake I have grown to like, but didn't like at the time, and it was also before like I paid attention like super hardcore to like writers and who they were. So, but James Gunn has become one of my favorite filmmakers. He's a guy that I kind of I jive with his worldview. Like I kind of understand exactly what like, and he's become. I don't want to say it's just me because he's become a very popular filmmaker. He makes populist entertainment. I think he does a great job of it. But Slither is it's a character-based comedy that the comedy isn't about the monsters. Like the monsters aren't goofy. It's kind of similar to Tremors in that way. Mm-hmm. It's very similar to Tremors a lot. And I think that's an important distinction. We also talked about a little bit with the Monster Squad last week where the comedy is from like the human characters a lot of the times. And the monsters are treated with respect.
Yeah, the monsters are scary.
The monsters are scary the whole time. Yeah. And the characters are never, the characters are never caricatures. Gunn has always felt like a grown-up who continues to make trauma movies, too. And, like, this has a lot of, like, 50s science fiction stuff, and stuff. It's obviously...
All the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are trauma movies.
They're trauma movies.
On a huge scale.
Yeah, on a huge scale. You can see... yet you can see that influence in all of his stuff.
Yes.
It does have some stuff to say if you're looking for it. I guess like a lot of these movies I haven't mentioned, but I mean they're not. They do if you want to dig deeper. But there's stuff to say about consumerism. I think Gunn is a vegetarian as well, and I think you can read into that how you will with this movie. It also has big society vibes. There are moments that feel like society, the shunting.
Yeah.
But this is what Gunn is so brilliant at: is he makes a lot of this weird stuff accessible to the masses, and it's weird.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. Slither did not catch on at the time. Slither was a bomb, and it was unfortunate. But it also led him. I think he was kind of bummed. It also led him to make Super, and then Super led him into Guardians, I believe.
Which is like a leap because Super did not like blow up or anything.
No,
like
it was
It wasn't like a huge hit or anything.
But Super was a very honest movie. For all its, and there are some flaws in it, but it was a very honest movie. Slither's also a feel-good horror movie. It's kind of like a small town, like it's kind of a big goofy comedy, and
lots of heart.
Greg Henry, Fillion and Banks are really good as the couple, but Greg Henry gives maybe my favorite performance, maybe my favorite performance of the 2000s because he is over the top and he's so much funny. I guess if there is a caricature, maybe it's him, but he has so many great lines in it. I adore Slither. It is my number 2. Oh, what is your number 1, Willie? I'm excited to hear this.
It's Battle Royale.
Okay.
No drum roll, just Battle Royale. So it's. Remember how you mentioned like the word of mouth of Battle Royale a little bit? I was that guy who was spreading the word of mouth.
Yeah.
I was a psycho for this movie. I found it on the internet during a particularly kind of like weird time where I was like trying to like figure out my life a little bit, and I was like, this sounds cool.
Yeah.
And I found like a fan site that had like translations of like the character descriptions. And I was like, whoa, this is rad. Like, I got super weirdly into it. And I was like, I gotta find this. So I went on eBay and I got a Chinese or Korean DVD copy.
Okay.
And it had English subtitles. They were not good, but it was both movies in a double pack, like your torrent.
Battle Royale 2 was the really dangerous one too. Just a quick aside,
right?
Because that was the stuff. Yeah, that was Battle Royale 2 was like the 9/11 stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
Really?
Yes.
1 is way better, but
1 is way better.
But 2 is fun too.
Yeah.
So I got them both on this double pack thing, and they wouldn't play on like half the players that I had access to, but I figured it out, and they were like region 14 or something. Never heard of it. And I got them to work. I think it was a Dreamcast I used. Pretty sure. Yeah, it was Dreamcast.
Man, that is an aughts. Sorry.
Right? Yes, sir. I used a Dreamcast to play them, and I was like, this is like, I'm not supposed to be watching that. This is banned in the U.S. Like, I felt like a real rebel.
Yeah.
You know? I showed it to everybody. I said, you got to come. You're coming over. Like, you are coming over right now to my house, and you're going to watch Battle Royale, and you have no choice. Like, I'm going to show this movie to you. Like, you need to see this. This is the shit. This is the future. Like, watch this. And I was, So, like, that was one of the few things where I, and many members of the podcast network can attest to this. Nick, Gojo, Alex, plenty. That I was like, we're all like, I forced them all to watch Battle Royale, and it was like my thing for a while. Aside from the nostalgia factor and like my personal memories of the movie, like I think it's tough because you're always going to lose something in translation, right? Anytime you're dealing with a movie that is a foreign film, and for us, obviously, this is. You're going to lose a little bit of the performance.
Yeah.
Because the language is not native, the inflection is not native, so that you lose some. But I think the movie is really, really, really well made. I understand every character motivation. I understand every all the emotions and like character relate. Like the connections they feel. I get that despite the language barrier. I get the humor despite the language barrier, which is very hard to pull off. Humor is the hardest thing, I think, when you're watching a foreign film to capture.
Yes.
It's a darkly humorous film. It is a nasty, nasty movie. It's mean-spirited, but it's got hope. And I love those kinds of movies where, like, they recognize how shitty the world is, but they also go, there's a chance. Maybe. Maybe. But use this as a warning.
Right.
That's why I love directors like Carpenter Romero, because they always were kind of in that vein. I just think Battle Royale is a masterpiece, in my opinion. Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies, period, all time. Not top 10, but top 20, I think. So, yeah, Battle Royale.
Excellent. Yes.
Tim, number one, man.
Number one.
I don't actually know what. Oh man, I'm trying to.
I believe you already talked about it. It's Shaun of the Dead.
Oh my God! Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I've been a huge rewatcher of movies. I'll rewatch some of my favorites, but I watch like bits and pieces. Like I like to watch clips, but I've never been a huge rewatcher. This is a movie that I think is endlessly rewatchable. Like, and I think it gets better on rewatches. It's one of those movies that I think you pick up on some of the jokes.
There's details and stuff that you miss. Yeah.
Pick up on some of the character moments. You mentioned it a little bit. You talked about it. I don't know if Edgar Wright has ever topped this.
I think some of that has to do with our inclination towards the horror genre too.
That might be yeah.
I do think he's probably made better movies from a technical filmmaking perspective.
That's
certainly.
fair.
But I don't think it's on the flip side, I don't think it's unfair for us to say this is his best movie either.
I like a lot. Actually, I think I like all of his movies.
I don't think there's any. I don't. What is this? Man,
so have you seen Last Night in Soho?
I have not.
You should check that out. I really liked it. And I think it has a lot of interesting things to say about nostalgia and like grappling with like some of your favorite artists being shitty.
I've heard it's the least Edgar Wright movie.
I understand that, and it's if you're thinking of something like, I think it's a natural progression for where his career is going, though. Like I think you can see World's End into Baby Driver into this.
So yeah,
I kind of think you would dig it.
Baby Driver's sweet too.
Yeah, Hot Fuzz is so much fun.
Scott Pilgrim I like quite a bit.
Yeah, Scott Pilgrim is maybe the movie I saw the most in the theater. Like I loved going to the theater and watching that.
Sparks Brothers? What's the Sparks Brothers?
Oh, that's a documentary.
Oh, okay.
About the band, the
that's
Sparks.
Kind of
the Sparks things. So I don't know if he's ever topped it. I don't know if he ever will for me. And but I think that's because, and I mentioned this, of course, and you've kind of talked about it too, is when I saw this movie, like this was a movie made for me in my 20s. Yeah, right. It was made for a lot of dudes of my ilk in our 20s.
Grew up on Romero stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Grew up on horror movies. Grew
the
up
VHS
on
generation.
Movies. Yes.
Ways. Yeah.
And were kind of lonely, nerdy white dudes.
Yep.
Yes. Or in our heads, that what
Amen.
we were.
Yes.
It's a self-involved movie in a lot of ways.
Yep.
But you know what? I don't want to hear it too much because everybody in their 20s, maybe not everybody, a lot of people in their 20s are very self-involved.
Male, female, white,
yes.
Any other. Whatever.
As you grow,
yes.
hopefully, you become less and you begin to see the world in a different way.
Sean is that
that's
tether, right?
Thank you. But that's the point. And I think some of these movies, because of the culture wars or whatever bullshit, like have started to get a bad name because they're about nerdy white dudes, like who are self-involved and think the world revolves around them. But by the end of this, he's a different person. Yep. Like he realizes that. Like that's the point of the movie.
Yep.
So like
it's the thesis.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm sorry, but that shit's always going to work for me. And it's always going to be something I connect with. And I get if people don't like it.
I have seen plenty of films where the nerdy white guy is that way through the whole movie.
Yeah.
And there's no character growth change, nothing, and they still are somehow rewarded at the end of the film
Yes.
as this like conquering hero. That's not this movie.
That's not this movie. No. This is an honest movie, and I think it confronts that. I think what we're talking about and what people criticize it for, this movie confronts like in the movie, in the text of the movie. That's
if you don't like nerdy white protagonists, it's on you. This one I think does a good job of yes.
So anyway, and you know what? This might not work. Like if I watched this for the first time today, I'd be like, "What's all the fuss about?" But like that wasn't that way at the time. You touched on it too. It's a parody that loves what it's parodying.
Yes,
and I think that's an important distinction. And I think it's
a tribute.
It is a tribute, yeah. And because you're right, the Scary Movie. I find like the first Scary Movie funny. Like I think it's very funny. But I
don't know if it ages well, but I don't think it does, fair. My friend. But it was very funny at the time.
It was very funny at the time. But you know what? Like. It's also looking down its nose in a lot of ways. Like the humor is making fun of those movies.
Yes.
Directly, this is not making fun of the Romero's movies.
It loves them.
Yeah. It loves them. It's maybe poking fun a little.
It's poking fun of the concept.
Yes.
But not like the movies themselves.
Right.
It's not. Yeah. It's never trying to be overly referential to a specific film or a specific scene.
Yep.
It's just the overall, like, zombies are kind of silly. Like, they're goofy, dead, slow moving. Like, there's a love for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yes.
It is my favorite movie of the 2000s. It's one of my favorite movies ever, I think, now that I think about it.
Excellent choice.
It's got a great soundtrack, and I just love it. I love Shaun of the Dead. So,
man.
You want to do honorable mentions and then...
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. I mentioned a bunch earlier in an effort to try and cut through mine a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so
was there anything you think we missed?
Go ahead and list off any ones you have.
Yeah, so I also had American Psycho. I had Final Destination 2. I'm a bigger fan of 2.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Pitch Black was on mine.
Pitch Black's on mine, too.
I had Jurassic Park 3.
I love Jurassic Park 3. It might be the first is my favorite, but like
my favorite. It's my favorite sequel.
Yeah.
I also had Bubba Hotep. I have Blade 2, but I want to mention Blade 2.
It's an action movie, but
it's an action movie. It's a superhero movie.
It's just so sweet.
Blade 2 is it's my favorite Blade movie. It might be my favorite Guillermo del Toro movie. It just fucking rocks. If we're doing our favorite,
it whoops ass. There's one bad thing in that movie.
What's that?
Shitty CGI Blade during that one.
Oh, that's awful.
The only time.
It's awful.
Everything else is flawless. We should review Blade 2 for no reason sometime.
Nomak fucking rules.
He fucking rules. He has every right to be pissed. He's like the hero of that movie.
I fucking love Nomak. He's one of my favorite
he's so sweet.
characters.
He's so sweet.
Dog Soldiers. Yeah, that was on my Eight-Legged Freaks. Nobody mentioned that. I think it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Scarlett Johansson, early role.
I've never seen it.
I had Resident Evil.
Me too. Yep.
Cabin Fever.
Nice.
Wrong Turn.
Yep.
Club Dread.
Yeah. I gotta rewatch Club Dread. We should do Club Dread next.
You want to do Club Dread next?
Should we do that next?
Have we? Oh, what did we do?
We've never done Club Dread.
We've done it in a bracket, I think.
But we have not covered the movie.
I don't think so. We can do Club Dread, I think. We can do it we'll theme it as like a vacation getaway or something. Saw.
Yeah, it's the winter coming up. You gotta.
The Devil's Rejects.
Okay.
Is my favorite zombie movie. I had The Descent on here. I had Midnight Meat Train, The Ruins, Trick or Treat,
nice
Pontypool,
choices,
Zombieland. Yep.
Most of those are shared. So I'm Audition 13 Ghosts. I want to throw out. I think 13 Ghosts is a blast. Yes. I think it's a ton of fun. It's underrated. It's creepy and funny and great and kind of a fun like throwback.
Yeah.
Little spoofy.
Was that another Dark Castle?
Yeah.
Yep.
Early Dark Castle.
Those Dark Castle movies are fun.
They are, yes. That's Cloverfield, I think. Those are some
Cloverfield, yeah.
There's some moments, and I think you lose a little bit when you're not seeing it in the theater. In the theater, there were some moments, the scale of that thing was terrifying. Like, legit, I was like, holy fuck, this is some scary stuff. It's like a Godzilla movie back to, the horror roots, and I like that about that. So, yeah. There we go.
All right, so I'm going to make sure we haven't. You're right. We probably haven't covered.
Never covered Club Dread in.
You know what? This will be fun because I think I want to talk a little bit about the Broken Lizard guys. Anyway.
Me too.
Because
I might rewatch a couple more.
Yeah,
I'm excited for this.
Yeah. I'm a Broken Lizard fan.
My father-in-law might actually listen to an episode of our podcast. It's one of his favorite films of all time. Is Club Dread.
Your father-in-law. I know this about him. If we ever did a Son of the Beach episode,
he loves it. Seinfeld, Son of the Beach, The Fugitive, the original show, not the movie.
Or does he not like the movie?
No, the show. And Club Dread.
So funny. Yeah, I think we'll be able to talk a little bit about Club Dread, and then I think we'll talk about Broken Lizard. And this will be a nice change of pace for us.
Let's do it. Mix it up. Have some fun.
Yeah, excellent.
Man, are we going to get to that point? Like I feel like I'm already narrowing my interests down to like a smaller. Like I only go back to certain things because I just don't have the capacity for it. We're going to reach a point where like there's like 4 or 5 things we watch / do. That's it, right? We're nearing that, right?
I know what's going to happen.
We're not there yet.
To be very it's going to be going back to my safe havens, my comfort food stuff.
That's it. Yeah. All right. Anyway, thank you guys.
I want to
yes, go ahead.
Real quick. If you want to send in a top 10 list, you still can for the 2000.
For all of them. Do it.
We'll talk about doing the 10s.
Eventually, yes.
But I just want to give a heads up to people too, because we have some people who interact with us on X. The
stop.
The white supremacist haven that is that Twitter has become. Anyway, these people are not white supremacists. They're excellent people that interact with us. Weirdly enough, we lost like a bunch of followers after yesterday. I wonder what happened to those fine bots. Anyway, but I want to give those people a heads up, and anybody who follows us there. I have not been active at all on social media, because I used to be more active on our social media.
We might not be even more.
I'm going to be less active. I will continue to ask for top 10 lists, which is what I've been doing on there. But if you want to interact with us at this point, and talk to us, the Discord is a great way to do it.
Or email us.
That's too.
Safe.
That's what I was going with the top 10 list. If you still have a top 10 list, and I love you guys on Twitter, but just email.
Gotta get away for a little bit.
Horror Movie Yearbook at gmail.com is going to be the best way moving forward.
It's too much.
And our Discord is a lot of fun too. So if you want to do that, please patreon.com/MidwestPodNet. Maybe even Google search for Discord, Midwest Podcast Network. Maybe Alex will give you an invite if you find it that way.
You could probably like message us on Instagram, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I would check the Instagram too. But yeah, I'm done with certain things for a while. So
all right,
I'm not deleting it though, because I just don't have them.
It's there.
It's there. I don't care. All right. Stay safe and stay scared, everybody.
Mm-hmm.